welcome to the Jacksonville Bar Association podcast. My name is Craig Shoup. I'm the executive director here at the Jacksonville Bar, and we're excited to have you today. Today we have joining us Rebecca Black. Rebecca was admitted to the Florida Bar in 2006. Rebecca worked as an immigration attorney at a small firm with David Fletcher during law school and after being admitted to the Florida Bar. In October of 2012, Rebecca opened her own firm, Rebecca Black Immigration Law, where she focuses solely on immigration, including green cards, naturalization, visas, refugee and asylum, business immigration services, and deportation and removal. Before we get started, I do want to say a special thank you to all of our Jacksonville Bar Association sponsors. These sponsors include Ameris Bank, Dex Imaging, Dixon Hughes Goodman, Member Benefits, Mulholland Investigation and Computer Forensics, Veritex, Florida Lawyers Mutual Insurance Company, YFast Networks, Charles Van Consulting, CH Mediation, Ullman Wealth Partners, Diamonds Direct, and Scarlet Group. At this time, we do have a quick message from one of our sponsors.
Hi, my name is Angela Merritt, and I'm with Dex Imaging. We are a provider of solutions for copiers, printers, scanning solution, document management, and specialize with helping law firms. We've been a long-term partner of the Jacksonville Bar Association and very honored to be able to be a partner with this organization. You can reach me by calling 904-419-0211.
We appreciate the support of all of our sponsors of the Jacksonville Bar Association. Well, Rebecca, after all that, welcome. We're glad you're with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about anything that my firm does and myself.
Of course. So let's start, I guess, at the beginning. What made you want to become a lawyer?
I resisted for years. I thought I was going to go to law school after college and then ended up deciding I wanted to be in the restaurant business. So I worked in Spain, I worked in France, I worked in DC, I kind of went back and forth a lot. And, after about 15 years of the restaurant business, and I did 5 years of outside sales and light industrial temporary help up in Atlanta. And all my employees in Atlanta were people from other countries, because that was in around the Olympics and after, and the growth was just tremendous, and it was just crazy. But after 9/11, then I was driving around Atlanta worried about potential I-9 violations. For those of you who do workforce compliance, you understand what I'm talking about. I was worried about I-9 violations in my paperwork or with employees and stuff. So I said, this is very Gestapo to me. I need to go to law school and be an immigration attorney and solve big things.
That's great. Now, I do know when I was doing some reading about you and such, you worked for Euro Disney. Many folks may not know, some folks do. I'm a huge Disney nerd. I love Magic Kingdom. Peter Pan is my favorite ride. I'm a kid at heart. Disney cruises are fantastic. I should get a sponsorship for Disney for all of this, but we don't. So tell us about working for Euro Disney and what that experience was like.
Well, as I always put it, most people have somehow been fortunate enough or not fortunate enough to be invited to a soft opening of a restaurant with family and friends or something. And you go and it's a disaster. You order drinks and they show up 3 hours after you get your dessert and it's just slow and nothing coordinates. And that's the point of the soft opening, to give everything, to figure out what you're missing, what you forgot to do, what you forgot to order. Oh, gee, nobody thought about that. And so it was the same thing with Euro Disney. I got there in, I want to say, October. The opening was April 12th, 1992. And it was, you get there and everything looked like a flat mud field outside of Paris. You could see where they were beginning to build, the princess's castle. But you're like, how are we going to open up in April? And so it just grew. And then about a month before we opened, that's when we got our employees. And like I said earlier, that's when you do a soft opening, that's when you have the opportunity to figure out what you forgot. Well, Euro Disney, or Disney Paris, as I think it's now called, is about 14 miles outside of Paris. And the last metro stop was about 3 miles away. So there was no student housing to put them up in. There was no, nobody had anything. It was just kind of like this, where is everybody going to be put? And so, you were supposed to be writing your employee rules, about, you can't be late more than 3 times and you're terminated. But nobody could get there on time because there was no way to get there. We opened and it was crazy, the key rooms and a lot of the hotels didn't work. This was, you got to remember, it was 6 hotels with over 6,000 hotel rooms. Each hotel had a couple of restaurants. Then you had the theme park. You had a nightclub area with a Festival Disney and, all these bars and restaurants. And everything opened up, 9 o'clock in the morning the same day. There was something you'll never see again, because I don't think anybody will be that crazy to do it until they have totally forgotten the pain and agony and there are no notes left of what you need to do.
So I know you talked about your Euro Disney, you did DC, Atlanta, you've been all over. What brings you to Jacksonville?
When I decided to go to law school, I was up in Atlanta, so I applied to Emory, Georgia State, and Florida Coastal because it was by the beach. And, Emory rejected me. Georgia State waitlisted me, and Florida Coastal accepted me. So I called up Georgia State going, I'm on the wait list. What does that mean? And they said, well, we haven't used it in 10 years. And so I'm sitting there thinking, oh, well, I better not wait on that. And so I just went ahead and picked up and moved down here to Coastal. So that's what brought me. And then I started working with David, and I stayed with him, and I like Jacksonville. I think it's a great town. It's either the biggest small town on the planet or the smallest big city. I can't really tell which.
We've had those discussions with folks over the time of back and forth which one for sure for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been involved in a lot of cases, especially in this, primarily focusing or fully focusing in this immigration practice area.
Yes.
What's some great stories from some cases you've been involved in you can share with us?
Well, one of my favorite stories is really, it's a Shaggy Dog Story. This lady was married in the 80s in Colombia. Her husband ended up coming here, and he kept saying, baby, I'll send for you, I'll send for you, I'll send for you. So she gets here, finally, it was like 15 years later. And he starts filing stuff, but nothing ever works, nothing ever goes through. And so finally, she's about to have her interview at immigration, and he just says, because he's now really sick and he's dying, he gives her this box of documents and says, I'm going back to Colombia myself. And she's like, so she shows up at this interview, it should be the week before, she's flipping through all these documents, she figures out he had been married not once, but twice after leaving her in Colombia to sit there and go, I'm waiting to go to the U.S. And so he had committed all sorts of fraud. Obviously, the first marriage got him here as a permanent resident, and so then he finally becomes a citizen, and he files for another lady, and he just is doing all this stuff. And that would never happen today because immigration and the government is so paperwork oriented. So, every file, every dot connected that they can connect, they've, since 9/11, that's what they've been putting money into. But back then, it wasn't like that. It was like following literally a paper trail. So he had managed to do all this. She shows up for her interview at immigration, and they deny it because he wasn't there. Well, then he goes back to Colombia, he dies, so she files for herself as a widow of a U.S. citizen, which she was. Well, they denied it, saying, well, you committed fraud, or your husband committed the fraud. He should have never gotten a green card, much less his citizenship, therefore we're going to deny you. And I'm like, well, wait. You can't do that. At this point, nobody can take it away. You had several opportunities, where you could have taken it away. You could have opened it up. You could have said, or you could have taken it, filed suit in federal court to take away a citizenship, and you never did. So he died a U.S. citizen. She's a widow of a U.S. citizen. Give her green card. It took about 2 or 3 years longer, and she finally got a green card.
Wow, that's intense. there's a lot. I mean, that sounds like a lot was going on. A lot of your time, a lot of everybody's time.
It was, and some of the stories, it's just people. People, there's a lot of unintended consequences. They don't really think, oh yeah, and they don't really understand how our government works. I think in a lot of governments around the world, you can, slip somebody $100 and something will get taken care of, whitewashed, whatever. And it really doesn't function like that here. So, it's just different.
So talk to us a little bit also about what you would think new lawyers, especially probably practicing in your immigration practice area, should know about practicing here in Northeast Florida and practicing immigration.
I think it's true for not just immigration attorneys generally, or all new attorneys should really focus on this, is that there's never miss an opportunity to network with other professionals. You don't know when you need to pick up the phone and call your criminal defense buddy or your family law friend and go, hey, how does this work out in reality? You just don't know, and you also want people to know who you are. So when they're sitting there and they've got that funny immigration question, they pick up the phone and call you, or send a client to you, so that way, they know where to go. But if they don't know you, and they're, sometimes what I do in an area, somebody calls me up and says, do you know anybody in Tallahassee? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me look at Google and let me see what all these different things kind of say. But I don't know anybody. And you don't want to be that guy in Jacksonville where there's a million other attorneys and nobody knows who you are, and they're just kind of like Googling around hoping to hit on somebody.
What do you think the value and the importance of being part of the JaxBar is?
You really get plugged into a very congenial bar. I love the luncheons. I love the professionalism of the bar. I love meeting the other attorneys. I've developed long-term relationships with a lot of people over the past, since 2006, so 15 years.
So we've got one last question we really have been having fun with, and I get feedback on our podcast. People tell us this is some of their favorite questions. What's some of your favorite places to have dinner with your family?
Well, almost every Wednesday night, Town Hall has a wine tasting. And so, I'll meet with some friends and we try different wines from around the world and have fun eating dinner. But, I call it the, San Marco kiss of death. You've got Taverna, which I love. You've got Matthews, which I love. And of course, Rue St. Marc. So it's kind of like, you just circle around. But, we're fortunate in that there's a lot of great restaurants in Jacksonville.
I know I live not far from that San Marco area, and I've gotten caught in that circle of great spots in San Marco for sure. So as folks that we've talked about of networking and making sure you're known to the community and the community knows you, someone has an immigration question or they want to refer an immigration case to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you for that?
Well, obviously they can call us or they can email us. For consultations, I do have an office inside the Beach Boulevard Flea Market, and every Saturday from 12 to 5 we have consultations there, preferably with an appointment. It's only $20 for 20 minutes, although they'll go longer if need be. And then Monday through Friday we'll also do consultations in my office on Atlantic. So it's just depends.
Really taking your office where your clients are. I mean, being at the flea market. How long have you been doing that?
I have been, when I left David Fletcher's office and I needed to have an office, I ended up, I had a friend who worked as the leasing officer, leasing person in there, and she said, I've got this office for you here. And it was the old owner's office. It's 2 rooms with, heating and air conditioning, and I said, $500 a month? If I can't make this work, I can't make anything work. So that was my office Monday through Sunday for, until about 2017.
Wow. Well, we thank you for joining us. So thanks, folks, and like I say, reach out to you, pop by at the flea market and see you. I haven't been to the flea market in years. I need to get back out there for sure.
There's a great little Brazilian restaurant right across from my office.
Ooh, I enjoy a good Brazilian restaurant.
It's not like teriyaki, but it's
close.
It's just a little more homespun.
See, more of our food questions for sure. But thank you, Rebecca, for joining us. We're glad
Thank
you're
you.
with us today. We look forward to seeing you all next on our next episode of the Jacksonville Bar Association podcast.